4,
3,
2,
1.
You are listening to
the Seasoned Millennials podcast,
where we are not too young.
And not too old.
Welcome to episode 2 of the TSM podcast. Today we're talking about millennials, and so we're going to have our own take about what that means. So we'll start around. Anyone throw any kind of idea of what millennial is? Anyone. Don't be shy.
Okay, I'll start. I think a millennial is a interesting type of person that needs like quick answers and is always has high expectations for a lot of information, all given at one time, and is a person that's eager to figure things out. We're always looking stuff up or trying to understand how something works and how things have happened.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was
All right, let's wrap it up.
Yep, that's the end of the show, guys. That's all you needed to know. See you next time.
Just kidding.
Now, one of the things that I find super interesting about millennials is we're not career-based anymore. You don't hear about people working 40 years for the same company. If there's a better opportunity somewhere else, we're going to take it.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I job hopped. Just kidding.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point.
If we don't like it, we're just oh well, I guess I'm going to go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Or whatever makes me more happy.
So I guess adaptable is what we're saying. We're adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good term for it. We should have thought of that. I think we also want, like you said, instant gratification. So we want things to be done now. So we're not as patient, I don't feel, as maybe our parents per se. And I feel like they're more, they're family oriented, but they weren't as family oriented as we want to be now, because always one person had to be gone from home and work a lot. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now the responsibilities have been shared. So it's most parties have equal workload, so the family can be more in balance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think parts of that.
Yeah, every time I hear millennial, I always think of electronically savvy,
Yeah.
old person's I can't plug in my TV for whatever reason, because it only takes 2 things, an HDMI cable. They have no idea what that is. Actually, they know what that is, but you know what I mean.
Some people don't know what that is.
We can get into computers or apps and things and figure it out very quickly, whereas it's our older generations have always kind of struggled with that.
Yeah, it is interesting because when we go into something to try to figure it out, like an app or whatever, it's it seems so everything seems so user friendly now. It's a series of steps, and you just have to read them. And it's the different generations are more of expecting to understand how it works before giving each step breakdown, and not wanting to have it understood before they take those steps to understand it.
Right.
So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, older generations knew exactly what was going to happen before they dived into something, whereas we're taking it step by step to understand what we're doing out here.
I'm trying to figure this out, and then we have the resources available that we can go out and actually learn how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's this whole thing that we're doing right now, we're just, to be honest, winging it.
Exactly.
And learning along the way, which is kind of the most exciting part of it, actually.
Yeah, and the fact that the millennials are also risk-taking, right? We're taking a huge risk, just putting ourselves out there, doing something completely different that we all don't know how to do. And it's very exciting. I find that very exciting and very thrilling. I like to live my life that way. But, it's really cool. So I definitely consider myself the stereotypical millennial in that perspective, not the what is it? I can't think of the term. That the millennial that wants it's a brat, the guy that's a brat.
Self-entitled.
Yeah, not as self-entitled, but a millennial in other ways.
I mean, there's a few out there. There's a few outliers for different things like that. There always will be for every generation,
Yeah, definitely.
But I think our generation is a little bit more privileged in the aspect of maybe self-expression
Yeah,
because we grew up on the internet.
right.
So
And we also grew up where, in like, when the internet was starting. Like, I remember the internet starting. I remember when YouTube started. You know, like.
I remember when MySpace and Facebook were like brand new. We had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
All I remember from MySpace is I could put my top 10.
I held out for so long. I really did.
I'd throw myself up there. I'm like, I wonder if people like this or not. You know?
Yeah.
And it's really those first like social media platforms are where we really were kind of experimenting with putting ourselves out there on the internet. And I mean, the other thing I think of is like Xbox Live. I know that's kind of like a weird one, but I mean,
No,
those
totally.
you go into the I don't know, like whether you're playing Halo or some other game, you get into kind of these like chat room settings in the lobby, and all the crazy stuff people would say in there, and how new
Chat
and uncomfortable
rooms.
that was, and racist.
The early days of Modern Warfare
Yes.
were rough.
They were rough, and we survived. But nowadays, like you can't get by on that kind of stuff. Like people kind of lose their minds. I don't know if that's a generation coming up after us, but
I think that's part of it for sure.
I kind of feel like a boomer when I look at some of these young pups, and I can really see. I'm like, you wouldn't last in a Halo lobby, Modern Warfare lobby, kid. You wouldn't be able to play
Way
a game.
too sensitive.
You wouldn't be able to put numbers on the board. But yeah, no, it's true. And now, since I've seen that, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe the boomers do have a point on some things, but it was a little bit more, I want to say, conventional back then,
Mm-hmm.
where now it's very innovative. We have way more options, I feel, since the invention of the internet and us being able to develop apps and tools, almost like countless tools that we could use and just help us augment our lives. And I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
It really is. I agree. We just have like endless amounts of information at our fingertips, and that's like unlike any other time in history before us, you know? Like, we're privileged to be like brand new to that. So that's pretty cool.
I think that's also why it's kind of unfair to even try to compare millennials to boomers,
Uh-huh.
because we're a different thing at this point.
Yeah.
You know, the way that we think, the accessibility to information, it's like it's all there all the time, and that is the boomer generation wouldn't have even been able to fathom that.
Right, yeah. I think of my parents and they're boomers, and it's like the way that the mentality that they have is like completely different than my mentality. You know, it's interesting. But we have Generation Z right after the boomers also, and then comes millennials, and then after that we have Generation Y. Is that right?
Like, where's Generation X
Before us.
before us? Right.
I think we're
Yeah.
Okay.
Generation Y and then Z, right? X, Y, Z, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's and then Alpha, because Alpha is a brand new one. It's
Jeez,
the youngest one.
that's weird. Why is it called
Yeah.
Alpha? The heck?
Gotta start over again after Z. Duh.
Well, Alpha, I know that because like in some of our like teaching seminars, they talk about Alpha, and it's like the young kids that are like in early middle school right now. They're gonna have like the most amount of careers in their lifetime than any other generation before them, and they're gonna have like a multitude of degrees and everything, and they're gonna be the most educated generation thus far.
Jeez.
Is the prediction.
Yeah.
Is a prediction, right? Which is kind of scary, like as a teacher, to think that I may be teaching some people that are like gonna be the smartest people. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little scary.
Guru will be here.
So, I came across this paragraph here that I felt like speaks completely to what millennials are. And let me find it right here. So like this talks about how to teach millennials, because millennials want information so quickly, but it says learning must be relevant to students. Learning means more when millennials understand practical application to the information they receive. Content must be specific, concise, and fast. So like that sentence right there like speaks volumes to me, because I have to, when I give instruction, I can't go at a slow pace. I have to like give them something that's really going to be intriguing, because if not, they don't care, and then I kind of just like throw it away. And then millennials are hungry for information and will search for it on their own if teachers do not present what they perceive to be relevant. So it's kind of like they push you aside and they like teach themselves.
Mhm.
So like that's why we have to do whatever we can to make it as interesting as possible, to make everything as interesting and engaging as possible.
Yeah, I feel like we don't play around with information. It's like, so tell me the truth now. Like,
Yeah.
don't beat around the bush. Like, I want to know what's going on. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. One of the things that I always think about also when it comes to millennials is, and this is kind of like taking a different turn, but I think it's really interesting, is the relevant or the occurrence of anxiety and depression and like mental health stuff. Because the millennial generation has like one of the highest current rates of depression and anxiety than ever before. And we've had multiple generations that have been in war, so I wonder why that is.
I feel like it was from the internet. So when people were able to start self-expressing themselves, and when some people didn't understand how to start self-expressing themselves, I felt like they might have become, depressed from watching other people succeed in knowing how to go about that way versus other people who didn't understand how to take that necessary step and provide their purpose for the world, if that makes sense.
So to kind of expand on that, you've got people like it used to be if you did something stupid, it was in front of like
awesome.
5-10 people.
Yeah.
Now it's literally in front of the world.
Yeah.
So anybody can see that information. It can be shared instantaneously. So I think that leads to a lot more anxiety.
That's true, and that's a very good point actually, because like emotions, the only stronger emotion than fear is shame, and shame is just that. What
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah.
So
I think too, you have to, if you tie it back into what we were talking about earlier with social media and learning how to kind of get, like, how long has social media been around?
yeah,
We're all trying to figure that out. And I mean, teenagers, I remember when I was a teenager on social media, man, it was not a good, I mean, it's just like the comment sections are horrible.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
if you're
for
if
sure.
you're really trying to express yourself and put yourself out there, and the reaction is everybody's trolling and making fun of you, that's
true.
not that. I bet we've all probably been there. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Some people don't handle that very well.
Yeah,
Some people will like delete posts. They'll go in hiding. They'll do all kinds of weird stuff. They had to kind of build up a resilience to it
definitely true.
over time.
Yeah,
And I think another piece of this is people are more willing to admit that they're depressed or that they're anxious, because it used to be behind closed doors. Having a therapist was almost a shameful thing. Now people are like, yeah, me and my therapist were talking about this.
Yep.
So I think it's a lot more out in the open, and that could probably add to the numbers a little bit too.
why do you think that is? Why do you think it's more okay now? Just curious.
So it's weird because I think some people think it's more liberating to be able to put their insides outside, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
Especially with depression and anxiety. Because when you're in trouble, especially with something dark and sinister like that, because that, I mean, I've had a few friends commit suicide over the years, and I don't know about you guys, but like, you don't recognize it, or the signs at least, sometimes till afterwards. And I know in at least one of my friends' cases, it was like after the fact, we would kind of go back and look and be like, oh, the signs were kind of there, but we didn't really see it, even though they might have been like trying to get it out there, or and again, that's like, I'm definitely not like an expert in this issue, but I feel like for some, being able to express and talk about that is somehow a way to distance themselves from kind of the dark thoughts that they're having, or to shine a light on it so that they can have their friends more aware, so they can open up their network more, so they can have a better support system. Because one of the big things with anxiety and depression that I've noticed is self-isolation. It just, you feel like you're a burden on the people around you, and so you want to just kind of live in your own little world. But yeah,
And I agree with that also, but one of the things I think about when I think about that is we're in a time where people are talking more about it, but we're also in a time where people are committing suicide more. So is it actually helping because people are killing themselves more now in a time where we're talking about it more? So is talking about it more actually a good thing? But then I don't want to also say that expressing the way you feel it should be like a bad thing or shameful, because we all need expression in some way or another. You know, I know I do. I need to express myself in a lot of ways. And if I didn't have that, I would feel like stressed, you know? So I just, it is going into kind of a completely different topic, but the fact that we have so many more suicides and so many people talking about it, is there a connection there? Is there something there that's different? I know that this can probably be controversial to some of
I think
the
maybe
people that are listening, but just curious.
One reason that happen is because a few or some millennials have become non-religious, so that can skew your moral habits and think, oh, I can just commit suicide, or like not take into consideration your religion, or it's very against it.
Yeah.
And so if people don't implement that religion into their children, they're gonna not use it. You know?
Yeah, that's interesting. I had not thought about that.
Yeah, we are growing, like, I think I read a statistic, no, I didn't think of it, I read a statistic that, like in the boomer generation, I want to say like 7 out of 10 people were religious, and now it's like 3 out of 10.
Wow.
For like the up and coming. And so it's this kind of shift from making religion a priority to being non-religious, or I don't know if you want to call it free thinking or whatever it is, but yeah, people don't have the religious base, which I think can be a kind of your defense mechanism against all that, because it gives you like a meaning and a purpose to life, whereas not having it, it's kind of up to you to determine what that meaning to your life is. And when you try to find it out on the internet, I don't know.
It's not a good place to learn your meaning.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Yeah, with the whole religious aspect of it, I mean, if you do commit suicide, where do you end up going? Nobody wants to burn for eternity.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a good time. So I think the religious aspect probably plays a huge role.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, because it's like, I think in the Catholic religion, I think if you commit suicide, it's like a mortal sin, something that can't be forgiven.
Yeah.
So it's something you don't want to carry on to your afterlife, or whatever happens to you.
And bring shame to your family and like the whole thing.
So I don't know.
And again, shame is more powerful than fear.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So is it just like not shameful anymore, or is like maybe it is a religion?
That's
That's
really
a good
interesting.
reason.
Could be like there might be an aspect of it in our culture that's kind of like glorifying it, or I've noticed like lately the victimhood mentality is very strong and actually like has a little bit of a currency to it. And so like whether that's related to us or not, it's just kind of the way the world's like moving, but
Kind of makes you the permanent victim.
yeah.
You know,
Or
life was too hard. They bullied me, whatever. And so I'll show them this is what they did.
Yeah.
I overcame, it's the typical rap story. I'm sorry. It's kind of like I came from the bottom and made it to the top.
Moving on
Sort
up.
of, yeah. But to get there, your scaffolding is all your hardships and hard times.
Right, yeah.
I call it like the typical rap story, but
right, yeah.
but-
like came from the hood and
but
now you're.
it's legit. Like, I'm not trying to crap on them.
No, but it's true. It's like beating the odds kind of a thing.
Yeah, meeting the odds. But it's weird because there's two ways you could look at that.
Yeah.
Because to have any kind of success, you have to go through
Hardship.
all kinds of hardships.
Yeah.
And but it's a little bit different when you kind of try to manufacture your hardships, and that's what I was getting at. And I think that some people are trying to kind of manufacture their own hardships. Like, I don't know if you guys have friends who bring up
Yeah.
Like high school, like people were mean to me in high school, and you know that person, and you know that people weren't really that mean to them in high school.
Yeah, I definitely know people that throw pity parties, for sure.
There you go.
And it's, you know, you gotta just keep looking forward and know that better times are on their way, hopefully, you know?
But there's kind of that unrealistic.
Yeah.
Kind of, they say hindsight's 20/20, but if you look at, you know, your past and nobody else knows it but you could turn that into whatever. So you gotta be careful with it too.
I think that's why a lot of millennials move around too.
Probably.
Escape the past.
Yeah.
Probably.
Gotta get away from those exes.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so going back to the millennials, what else how should we wrap this up? What do you guys think?
Well, I think we do like adventure that in a way where it's almost like nomadic, but we still want to stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it
You know,
does.
like I'm gonna go to Hawaii, but I'm still gonna be on my social media still and talk to my friends and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
And document my
Yeah,
life.
and document
Right.
my life, like
Yeah.
But only good aspects,
yeah,
right?
only
Yeah.
the good aspects.
Yeah.
You know what a weird one is?
What?
It's a weird one.
Like when millennials get married or whatever, and then they go on their honeymoon, they broadcast their whole honeymoon on
Oh,
their, like
yeah,
Instagram
I
that's-
story.
haven't seen
That's
those
interesting.
broadcasts.
No, it's just like, you know, constant story of things.
She saw
I haven't
porn, I
seen it.
missed it.
I haven't seen that yet.
I don't know why, but that one kind of weirds me out a little bit.
Yeah.
That we do.
Yeah, 'cause
There's some
that's-
times where you want it to be just like personal.
Just like, I
and
thought that was
escape.
just between you two.
Yeah.
I need to know what your like cool little, I don't even know, your little villa looks like.
Villa.
Why are your bed sheets messy? You know?
Right.
I don't need to see that.
That's
Oh, you're out
hilarious.
swimming in the ocean like everyone else? Okay.
People do tend to share a little too much sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean they
a
like
little
share
too
themselves
much.
making coffee for goodness
Yeah,
sake. Like,
like-
we all make coffee the same way you do.
Unless it's like
Thanks.
specific or
Yeah,
like
special coffee.
If you can
Make
make a
this.
cat in the coffee with the creamer,
Oh yeah, that's something else.
I'll
That's
give you a
art.
free pass there. That's pretty dangerous.
That is like really cool. Some of those like things that they do. Yeah.
I don't know, another aspect. I feel like we do a lot of research before we actually do something.
Mhm.
So like if for instance I want to buy something online, I will literally research for like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be browsing
Me
and
too.
browsing and browsing and browsing until I actually buy something. I might not even buy it. Then
Yeah.
I forget about it.
Do you contribute to the like the things online that you can find? Like, do you write reviews? Because
Not
I
really.
read a ton of reviews,
I should.
but I don't write any. I've never written a, well, I've never written a review for a product, and I like a lot of tech stuff, as you can see by my desk or table. But I've never written a review, but I read so many.
I've
Like,
never written a Yelp review.
wow. Yeah, it's interesting that we rely on reviews so much and like how things work and like all the research and stuff too.
So it's kind of interesting because I've been on the negative side of Yelp reviews. So it's really hard to put too much. Let's put it this way: people are like 10 times more likely to leave a negative review than a positive
True.
review, and so you have to take those with a grain of salt always.
True.
Yeah.
I like reading the negative reviews
Yeah.
though. It shows you who that person really is.
That's true. That's true. Actually, a lot of the reviews that I read, I like always search for like the good ones. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's just like me, like I'm just being a positive person or what, but I do. Like I always look at the like 5-star reviews. Okay, what did they actually say that they liked about this? Because if they liked this, then I'm probably gonna like this. Like, was this a really good quality product? You know. And like when I see multiple people say, "Oh, it was a good quality product," and one person say this was shit. Oops. It's okay.
You opened the door. No.
The floodgates.
Our
Microphone
first
explodes.
cuss word! Yay!
I feel like we should put like a bell.
Are you religious?
No.
Well,
Oh, okay.
no, not really. But yeah, then it's like I don't even count that person that had a negative review. I just think about all the positive ones, and then it like reinforces the fact that I want to buy that.
Like, have you ever read a really bad review that just made you want to buy the product? Because you're just like,
No.
I can't relate to
It was
that one.
so bad, I gotta have
it
it.
was so bad.
No.
I'm just like, I'm buying this.
No, never.
A
Actually.
Patagonia jacket. People were talking so much crap about that thing.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, it rips too easily.
Isn't that like a super popular one too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, people. But if you look at the reviews, you either like it or it's 1 star because it's too flimsy.
I mean, those are
And it
baby,
just makes me
baby
laugh
boomers
because
wrote
it's supposed to be a lightweight jacket.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You go thrashing around out in the woods and you get like a little nick or something in there. What are you thinking?
They weren't.
Yeah.
Exactly. They were not thinking.
Well, I think a lot of us, also millennials, really research to invest in ourselves too.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I feel like it's weird because like I feel like some millennials still start at families really early, and
Yeah.
then some still start super late.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like a split. I don't know.
We
I don't
are
know that statistic.
Definitely part of a transition.
Yeah,
that's
it's
for sure.
weird.
And
It's
we're
like-
kind of laying the groundwork for the next generation that's coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's amazing because you look at a little kid right now and they know how to do everything on an iPhone,
Mhm.
everything on a tablet, you know.
Yeah.
They have all that, and I'm thinking, I was like, well, I was throwing dirt clods when I was,
I was.
Seriously.
I remember throwing
Yeah.
bullets.
dirt clod wars. They were awesome.
Pretending they were spaceships and then crashing them.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I did all that out of dirt. Man, we didn't even get
And
into
now
like
look at us.
yeah, we didn't even get into like millennial dating or there's just so many topics we
Oh,
can cover.
yeah.
Yeah. This is
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
have to be
dating.
saved for the next one.
Yep.
How
Yeah,
did you
so
meet
this-
your boyfriend / girlfriend / whatever it is?
So this will be part 1 of our part 2 series then, I guess.
Sounds good with me.
Perfect.
Yeehaw.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to
The TSM Podcast.
Follow our Instagram at TSM Podcast 2020.
Until next time, this was
Jackie.
Adam.
Mary Beth.
Justin.